7:03 p.m. Roll call, please.
Director Slater Carter.
Present.
Director Penrose.
Present.
Director Boyd.
Here.
Director Warren.
Present.
Director Blanchard.
Here.
And Director Kowalczyk.
Here.
Okay. Now, I have a question. In the past, we have had a Pledge of Allegiance, and yet it's been removed from the last several agendas. Has there been a request by anyone to remove it?
It's actually on this page. It's on the divider page.
The reason why is when I went back and I did the resolutions for the time and place, and it says what will be on the agenda, it wasn't listed, so rather than having agenda creep, I am only putting on there what is on the adopted resolution for inclusion.
Are we not allowed to have the Pledge of
Well, I
Allegiance?
just put it on there as it's stated in the resolution, because I realized
That's
that,
what we've been doing all along.
I know, I was trying to
Since
stay in
Since
compliance.
I don't see it here, we won't bother this time. Public comment, oral communications, Bill Kehoe, please.
Oh, sorry.
Come up closer, closer to the microphone.
Be close to the microphone.
Stand here and project, huh? Okay, I'm not sure if this is the right place to do it. I wrote it on my comment card. Madam Chair and board members, I'm Bill Keogh from Moss Beach. And I'm actually here to talk about all the confusion that's going on with the SAM budget not getting set. And I know there's a lot of difficulties, and I know there's a lot of stuff going back and forth. So I want to suggest, for the sake of the employees of SAM, so they can plan their monthly budgets and not worry about the next paycheck because the budget hasn't been passed, that you get together and pass a temporary budget, maybe for the next quarter, that will ensure their financial structure through that, so that they can pay their bills and come to work and focus on the stuff that they're doing. Even if it's only an extension of the current one, while you negotiate and work out all the fine little details that I know that go into contracts, and I know it's difficult sometimes. But I think that would be what is best for both the employees of SAM and the community as well. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from anyone in the audience? Seeing none, we will, oh, okay, we have a comment from the board, from Director Warren.
I've been on this board for 19 and a half years. And there's a lot of different people sitting at this table. A lot of different political philosophies, particularly in Half Moon Bay. I've enjoyed my time on this board up until now. This is the first time in 20 years that I don't really want to come to these board meetings because of Half Moon Bay's orneriness and combativeness and just overall disagreeableness, or whatever that word is. I'm just too upset to think about the right word right now. This is the first time this board has just totally malfunctioned in probably 40 years. And it's bad enough that I don't see how we're even going to get past it, because Half Moon Bay doesn't seem to be interested in making this board work right.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to comment.
Director Kowalczyk?
I
and then
defer to
Penrose.
my vice mayor.
Thank you. I asked to be on the SAM board this year, hoping that I would get the appointment, because I thought, boy, I really love the idea of everybody on the coast working together for the common good. I thought that was such a wonderful thing. And up until the time that we had our retreat, I was pretty hopeful, and during our retreat,
Your retreat being,
our SAM retreat, when we had our strategic plan retreat, I felt very hopeful at the end of that. I thought, gee, everybody seems to be on the same page, we all seem to want to work together. I think that the blaming of Half Moon Bay, instead of taking the responsibility that other board members seem not to want to take for the negotiations, and the constant putting down and calling names has done nothing but add fuel to the fire. It makes negotiation extremely difficult. Half Moon Bay has been trying to negotiate. You say Half Moon Bay has been doing no attempt at negotiation. It's like kids in school saying, yes, I will, no, you won't, yes, I will, no, you won't. And I'm gonna stay on the board to see this through, but I'm very disappointed, and I'm amazed at the amount of hatred that's come my way.
Director Kowalczyk.
So I just want to share those sentiments that I'm also very delighted to be part of SAM. I've been on the board for years now as an alternate. Sometimes there are hard questions, sometimes there are difficult discussions, but in my tenure we've always been able to work through those and have those discussions. I've been on the receiving end of a bunch of garbage and noise, and I've never rose to it. Been accused of, somebody accused me of wanting sewage on the beach and horrible things like that, just terrible things from members of this group and members of and our member agencies, terrible things. But we need to rise above that and work together. And I'm sorry if sometimes working through issues can be difficult, but that's what we're here to do. That's why we were elected, and so I'm delighted to work through those issues. When I joined the board, I got some nice congratulations saying that wow, it's really changed the tone and tenor of things. And I'm happy that that happened, and I want that to continue. The only way that continues is from collaboration. And I'll just share that. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
Sure. On
Scott Boyd.
March 27th, this board met and considered and adopted the strategic plan, which was the result of 2 Saturday sessions of this board and staff working together to try to find the same page to get on a variety of issues. That strategic plan document was adopted. It's on our website, and in that document, agreed to by almost everybody at the table. Leonard made a protest vote on a fine picayune point, but we were all on the same page about this. In that document that we adopted on March 27th was a section that talked about a long-standing bone of contention, a bone of contention that is pretty much an issue that Half Moon Bay has been gnawing on for quite some time, and that is the issue of how does funding of the maintenance of the intertie pipeline system get funded. Now, for 41 years, this agency has been working together in an agreement that brought us together. We have managed every single year of the 41 years to pass a budget, and we anticipated and wrote and adopted in that document on March 27th that once we finished the budget this year, we would take up the matter of the IPS funding. We were prepared to sit down and discuss it here as a board. Now, the budget was delayed and before we had a vote on the budget, Half Moon Bay brought a lawsuit. Now, we're going to hear a lot of words about negotiations and being on the same page and all getting along, and just let's be really clear, there is no interpretation of a lawsuit which qualifies for the use of the term negotiations, much less being on the same page. This was unilaterally dropped on the other member agencies without warning by Half Moon Bay.
July 11th.
So it's nice to hear all the pretty words. You voted to adopt that. We all voted to adopt it, with the exception of Leonard over his Picayune Point.
That being,
That being the strategic plan, the vote on March 27th. We had an agreement on how to proceed. We had an agreement in that document which said that we were all aiming to be done and have that resolved by the end of 2017. So we thought we were on a page where we were actually going to schedule and take this up, but jumping the gun and getting ahead of the trigger, which would have begun putting this on the agenda and opening the discussions on this, Half Moon Bay decided to take it to a place where there's no negotiations, but rather litigation. So I was all for negotiations. I was all for nice words and making nice, but let's be really clear. This agency and its ability to conduct its responsibilities has been put at risk. To this day, we still have no budget through the intransigence and dug-in position of Half Moon Bay. They will talk tonight, no doubt, about some proposed ways to get the budget done. I promise you that tonight they will not show us anything in writing that puts any meat on that bone. So, I'm all for the happy words, I'm all for the collegiality, but I'm much more for our duty and for keeping this agency performing its work, which it has done for 41 years, and I intend and am committed to keeping it going for much longer than that. That's my comment.
thank you.
Good Chair,
Do we
I
have
think-
any more comments?
If I
You're
could-
done?
I would like to respond.
No, this is not response time, this is comment.
I have another comment.
No, you do not
I
get,
still have another
you do
comment.
not get to, let's move into
So my
closed
comment
session.
is-
Let's move into
my
closed
comment
session,
is
cut
as
the
follow.
camera, please.
So my comment is that,
Oh, are you
that
being
Half
Sabrina
Moon-
Brennan?
Half Moon Bay, is sitting here getting, and we're on the receiving end of, you don't see us talking badly about you, or about your organizations or you. We don't do that, and it's not fair to us. So we're here in good faith.
I called
and we're-
closed
and
session.
we're here in good faith to talk about all the things we're doing, and I'm happy that we're able to bring financial options to the table to keep funding going forward. That's my comment.
Order
Thank
the
you.
room cleared, please.
Please clear the room. Okay, let's call this reconvene in open session. We are starting with public comment and oral communication.
Before you do that,
Oh, we need to report out.
there's,
Direction has been given to staff. And other than that, we're reporting out. Convene in open session, public comment, oral communication. I will note that public comment is for people to be able to address items not on the agenda. It is not for debate. It is not for back and forth. As in the city council and other agencies, it is simply as a way of the public addressing the board. And for the board to perhaps make comments on items not on the agenda.
For items within the purview of people.
Thank you very much. So let's move on to consent agenda.
I have
And
a
before you
question on-
have, yeah, I was
I
gonna
have a
say,
question on one of the checks,
Okay.
but,
before you go very far, staff, and with the help of a couple of individuals, pointed out some errors in the minutes, so rather than going through it, we'll just bring it at the next meeting. The
Okay.
minutes of the July 24th meeting.
So that will be on the
Item
next
A.
meeone,
Yeah.
next regular meeting.
Next regular meeting, yes.
How about approving disbursements for August 14th? Do we have any questions?
I have a question on one of the entries. Who is John Patino and in particular rental car claimant? What's that all about?
He is an individual who, the big Sam truck hit his car, and this is his rental car expenses. We will be submitting this to our insurance for reimbursement.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve consent agenda items B and C?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Moving on to old business. Item A, adopt resolution, next in number, approving and adopting the JPA general budget for fiscal year 2017-18 and adopting the position control list.
I apologize, for some reason, this keeps saying poison control list, and I keep changing it, and I'm not really sure why it keeps happening, so my apologies.
Both are important.
It is very important. Since this is multiple times we've had this conversation, I'll leave it with the only thing that's really changed, date.
Thank you.
I have a question that I meant to
Leonard?
ask last time. On the position control list, which is PDF page 52, my recollection is that for a bunch of years, we had, counting with general manager, 14 FTE. And I don't know, I've been asleep at the switch here. How did we get to 15 and a half?
The creation of the engineering and construction contracts manager and the halftime accounting technician.
Oh, no, the engineering contract manager was on, how do I describe this? That FTE was made available by not replacing Tony, but promoting one of the operators into that position. So it was very clearly and explicitly stated to this board that creating that position did not increase the staffing level.
But then last year, you authorized a position to actually be filled that had been budgeted in the previous year but not authorized, which was the OIT position. So while it was budgeted, it was not filled. You authorized filling it, and then you authorized the creation of the halftime accounting technician.
Right, that part I remember.
Yeah, so it was budgeted, but it was not authorized, and then we had the discussion and you authorized us to fill the OIT position.
Okay. Deborah, did you have a comment?
Are we on 7A?
We are on 7A.
Yeah. Half Moon Bay would like to support and move forward with a budget that protects Half Moon Bay's legal positions. We see two ways to do this. One, with our stipulation in order. Our attorneys have signed the version that we attempted to hand out previously. And we understood that Sam's counsel has also approved it. Another way we can do it is with a loan agreement. Our attorneys have drafted a zero-interest loan to Granada and Montara that would be repaid at the conclusion of the litigation if the court rules for Half Moon Bay, or forgiven if the court rules for the districts. We have copies of that loan agreement here.
May I comment on to that?
Yes.
So I think that, thank you, Deborah, for summarizing that. I think the most important point is that Half Moon Bay is really earnest and looking for avenues to make sure we provide funding for SAM. That I heard our public comment earlier tonight about giving some comfort to the staff here, but it's also comfort to the community that funding is still coming forward. And here are two ways to do it. And so the stipulation, which would be funding the budget as written, with some legalese depending on how the litigation turns out, or is there interest loan? And I know Deborah has one other thing to talk about.
Yeah, and then we also have a check here in the amount of $911,392.50 to cover 3 months of the city's contribution to Sam's budget, which does not include the IPS.
And I believe that's based off of previous year's budget, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
so-
Okay, do we have any other
So
comments?
that's which months is that supposed to cover?
July, August, September, I would assume, based on the monthly assessments from 16-17. Correct?
That's my
Yeah,
assumption.
that's my assumption. We tried to bring cash, but it was awkward.
Too big of a suitcase.
Are there any,
Leonard, do we have any other comments?
I'm
Okay, Leonard,
I'm taking this in, but go ahead.
Leonard,
are there any general manager or council concerns over Sam accepting a check for an amount that the rest of the member agencies might not agree with.
Well, certainly, there's nothing in the JPA that contemplates a partial payment like this. I think I'd be more concerned with what message this sends to the regional board potentially, because the regional board, I think, would know by now that there's a dispute between the member agencies, or among the member agencies, as to who should be paying for the force main repairs that are so critical to preventing spills in the future. And if one infers from the acceptance of the check that Sam is also not concerned or committed to funding that, then that would be a bad thing. Now, we don't know how the regional board would take it, but if that's a possibility, that does give me some level of concern. The other thing that I mentioned to council, Mr. Colantuano, when he floated this idea, I think it was last week, was I had some concern about how you line up the figures, because there was so much reorganization that was done between 16-17 and 17-18. I mean, structurally it was changed considerably, and to try to link up, the money and accounting-wise for an audit it gave me some concern. I'm not an auditor, but it seemed to me that would be potentially a challenge. And we do have, I received my letter from the auditor asking about risks of potential litigation and that sort of thing. That's a customary matter, but it's pretty a little heightened this year compared to a typical year. And
Well, and
and the auditor is going to already have to deal with the fact that we're into our operating reserves pretty significantly. I don't know. Those are my concerns.
Scott?
Yeah, I think the check,
I think it's Scott's turn.
Please go ahead.
thank you. The check comes along with the stipulation in order and/or the loan agreement.
So the
So
check is,
if I-
wait a minute, is the check contingent on signing the stipulation
No.
or the loan agreement?
No. No. The check is for 3 months of SAM's operations, not to include the IPS line.
Thank you. Scott?
So I don't see any problem with any member agency putting money on account. We have a normal way of doing things where the SAM manager generates bills and we pay the bills. Generally pay the bills every month. So I don't have a problem with somebody putting money on account. I'd like to get some clarity on the intention here, because everything I think I've heard Half Moon Bay say is that Half Moon Bay is in general okay with the 17-18 budget, with the exception of the repair work on the IPS. And if that's the case, then, now I know the stipulation was talking about funding as a continuation of the 16-17 budget. Everything I've read about it so far, and we haven't actually received a final version that we've had the opportunity to review. And I will note that everyone knew tonight's meeting was coming and that some review time would be necessary. So talking about a document that somebody has somewhere that we haven't had a chance to review isn't particularly, we can't use that tonight because we just haven't seen it, it hasn't been reviewed by our council. It may be a fine thing, we don't know. So leaving that aside, if the idea amongst all of us at the table is that that we have agreement on the budget and disagreement on that portion of the budget which was for the IPS repair, then I would hope that what you're intending is that tonight, that the money that you're prepared to put on account would be intended to pay on the 17-18 budget, which would address the concern that Carl has
Yes.
put in front of us. It doesn't answer the question for us about how IPS repairs are going to be made, but it can take care of the rest of the operations.
Exactly. That's
unfair?
exactly what that's a very fair,
Okay, so
Description.
then on to other questions. I don't understand the purpose of the loan, as we've talked about at several preceding meetings. It's a bet. And the traditional way for agencies in dispute to take care of these kind of matters is to pay it with some form of reservation, some kind of statement. We've all talked about this, about, going to the court, saying, hey, we're gonna go to court, we're gonna try to claw it back if we win. But we've all agreed, we had unanimity around the table a week ago, that the IPS repairs are necessary and need to be done post haste. But asking your partners in this venture to flip a coin and hope that we don't wind up having no way to really pay for half of the repairs that we all know are necessary, there's no, if we're gonna borrow money, I think it's much more likely they're gonna go borrow it from a non-hostile party. Okay? The lawsuit, I say without any kind of, I don't mean to be demeaning in saying this, but the lawsuit is an hostile act, and so in that light, I don't know that I'm looking to the actor in that case to be the one that I'm gonna go borrow money from. So, I know you have a lot of money in your sewer fund. I don't really understand why it is after 41 years that we're at this point. We've had a lot of back and forth on it, but with 23 million in your sewer enterprise fund, and us looking at, by comparison, a trivial amount relative to that, to fund repairs that the people who don't want to pay for it agree are utterly necessary, it's a conundrum I don't understand. And what you're proposing tonight, I mean, it's fine to bring the check, but I would much rather you just pay the bills that Sam sends out. And for Sam to be able to send those things out, we have to pass a budget. Now, Montero and Granada have already committed to send us bills, we'll pay the money. I think you're free to tell Sam Management the same kind of thing. I don't know what we're accomplishing here at the table tonight. The stipulation we don't have in front of us, the loan is problematic. I'm glad to see that Half Moon Bay is willing to pay some money, but I don't know that it gets us even one step closer to passing the budget, which is the thing that we have to do.
May I respond to that?
Yes, please.
Yes. Two things. One, were you to treat us as a hostile party and decide that you wanted to go get a loan from someone else, you would not be offered a loan at no interest. That's one thing. Number two, you have said that during the last two meetings that you were waiting to see this loan agreement, that you hadn't seen it, that we'd promised it, and that you hadn't seen it and you would love to see it. We brought it tonight, and we brought it in good faith, hoping that either you would sign the stipulation in order, which I think is probably a preferable way to go, or that you would accept a loan agreement. We want to see the repairs to the IPS go forward. We do not want to hurt our case legally in court. And we are trying to protect ourselves at the same time that we're trying even more desperately to protect the environment, to take care of the spills, and to repair the IPS. I don't want to get into a hostile argument about the past 41 years, about how much money Half Moon Bay has floating in their sewer budget. I think we leave it simply at this. We are offering this. If you are willing to accept it, we'll be very happy. I understand that you haven't had a chance to read the stip in order. You have a paper copy in front of you, which you've decided you don't want to look at. That's fine with me. You can look at it electronically if you wish to do it that way. My understanding when talking to Michael was that he had accepted all of your revisions and that
That's
he
my-
had
that-
signed it.
That, my understanding is that he had accepted my revisions. Now, what happened after that, I don't know. He signed it. I assume that there's a version that's got his signature on it.
Well, we have it, we have
Yeah,
the version
yeah.
here.
Hasn't made it all the way to me yet.
Without it going through our attorneys, it needs to go through our attorneys.
Of course it does.
And understand,
And our board.
understand, it's not a matter of viewing you as a hostile party. You initiated litigation. This is by its very nature.
You've
A
said
con-
that
a
several
confront-
times.
well,
Scott,
and-
maybe
And
every.
as long as
Never
anyone,
Never could he finish.
as long
this.
as anyone attempts to try to put on us that we are taking a hostile position, we have a duty to our ratepayers and our constituents to tend to their interests. And someone initiated litigation and put us into an adversarial posture, and it is our duty to comprehend that and to speak clearly from an understanding that someone has moved this into a different realm. And I'm not trying to make it personal, but I'm gonna make it really clear that we understand our duty and we can't be talked with kind words into a position of going, oh, well, never mind all that. There's a way to get to never mind all that, and that would be simple, drop the suit. I'd love to engage in the conversation that follows after that. But as long as the city maintains its posture, it is by definition an adversarial posture initiated by one party. So, please don't expect us to be on the receiving end of that and act as if it's all kittens and cuddles, because it's not. This was not something we initiated. We agreed to a plan this year for a negotiated approach to dealing with all this. And it's just not going to be the case that we're going to agree that a warm negotiation is going to ensue as long as this fact of the litigation is on the table. We're just calling it what it is and then discussing it in that light.
Okay, do we have any other comments?
I do. I mean,
Let me see if let's hear from Renata. You would like to say something?
Well, yeah, we certainly can't approve anything here before both our respective councils and boards, legal counsel and boards have reviewed it and we've discussed it. And if we get to it, I have a question on something that's unrelated to this, but
Okay.
I'm not clear on, from what Deborah said, at what rate that is, and unless it's the 17-18 budget minus the one line item Heflin is objecting to, then I don't understand why they picked the number unless it is the 17-18 budget rate.
It is the 17-18 budget rate.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Rick?
So a couple things. One, regarding the litigation. So it's the mechanism to get relief from the courts to clarify the terms of the JPA, which we have not agreed to for a long time. And it is the mechanism to get that clarification. And it is the absolute clarification. And when we get that clarity, we know if it follows our way or toward us or away from us. I know Half Moon Bay is gonna abide by that. And if it says you pay half, you pay half. We're good. Then that's clear. That's a legal judgment, and that's the deal we signed, and that's where we're at. And if it says otherwise, then we adapt. So that's why we're going down that path. If the question is, why would you ever do this? Because we want absolute clarity, because we don't agree, and we haven't agreed for years and years. So we're asking a judge to remedy it and make it clear. So regarding the other question was, I don't understand why this is all coming up tonight. I want to make it really clear, and it's also to Carl's point about what message are we sending to the regional board. We're sending a super clear message that here we are continuing funding for Sam. We're providing a check tonight to do that. We're providing a stipulation that says we'll do full funding for Sam, and it's been agreed to by Carl and our attorney, and need to get the other member agencies on board with that, that we'll agree to full funding, that pending the end of the litigation and the determination, then we'll decide whether or not Half Moon Bay gets reimbursed or not for that. So we're funding Sam. So check to Sam, funding Sam. Stipulation, funding Sam. Loan agreement, the third mechanism to ensure that Sam is funded. So there should be no ambiguity or no confusion while we're doing this. We care about the sewer authority, we care about the environment, and we're providing mechanism after mechanism after mechanism to ensure that Sam operates, that staff have the confidence to come to work, and that they're funded, and that we're doing the right thing for our community and for the sewer authority. That's why we're doing this. So it's all there, it's all very clear, and I think it sends a good message to the regional board that says we're stepping forward and we are not holding anything back. We're actually putting it all out there and making it all available, including hard cash. So that's where we're coming from.
This is good sales theater, and I must congratulate Half Moon Bay on a great salesmanship attempt and good theater.
That's really mockery of our honest, sincere intent.
I didn't interrupt you.
No, you
Please
didn't.
don't interrupt me.
I didn't mock you.
This is brinksmanship. You are trying to force us into, in public, without us having had the notification or the ability to consider this prior to be putting on camera and on public notice. I've been very careful not to mention any kind of stipulated agreement because I thought it was attorney-client privilege. I realize now it's open public discussion. And I'm shocked because I believe that attorney-client privilege should be maintained as attorney-client privilege. And particularly the terms of the stipulation. The normal process for member agencies of the JPA is to pass the budget with reservations and then sue, so that the agency can continue on. This trying to bully us with your brinksmanship is bad faith. This is trying to get around the JPA. The JPA talks about a specific process. It doesn't mention loans, it doesn't mention stipulations, it mentions passing a budget. So I am very concerned about how Half Moon Bay, I'm assuming it's the entire city because I'd like to know, when was this $900,000 check approved? At what meeting? Because there haven't been any. Does staff have the ability to approve a $900,000 check on its own? Do two council members have the ability to pass a $900,000 check on their own?
Are you asking us a question?
I am.
My answer is that we passed the budget.
For the camera, Half Moon Bay's attorney is sitting in the audience providing guidance to the council members who sit as directors on the SAM board.
And he's asking them to leave so he can give them guidance.
Wouldn't want my clients to break attorney-client confidentiality rules, certainly.
That's fair.
That's why I'd like to step outside briefly.
That
and talk to
sounds
them.
absolutely
Sounds
fair.
good.
Let's take a 10-minute break.
Okay,
It's true, like to.
congrats.
Okay, well, we're calling the meeting back to order at 8:31. I will let the citizens of Half Moon Bay worry about the Brown Act problems. It's really not my problem. However, I've been in business for a long time. I've done multi-million-dollar deals. And one of the things my attorneys have advised me is first stay out of trouble. And one of the things I have been advised is to never accept or sign a check that is not for the complete amount. It sets a bad tone. It leads to constructions that perhaps aren't as intended. So I would recommend not accepting the check. I see it as a way to get around the JPA. And I think that the JPA is something Half Moon Bay signed, and Montero signed, and Granada signed. And I think we are stepping too far afield from the signed agreement. And so I do know there is going to be a vote, a special meeting for Montero on next Thursday, a regular meeting for Granada, and a city council meeting tomorrow night. The Montero and Granada meetings are on Thursday. So my suggestion on this is that we take a vote on this item. We do not have accepting a check as part of this agenda item. So I think that we can put off to another time. And that we have a special meeting next Monday. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move adoption of the resolution next in sequence of approving and adopting the JPA general budget for fiscal year 2017-18. Was it a separate resolution for the position control list, or was that?
It's all in the same.
And adopting the position control list.
Second.
We have a second from Leonard, comment?
Now I have a question. And I think that maybe we should invite Half Moon Bay's council to answer this, but my question is, why doesn't Half Moon Bay approve the budget and then claw back the money if they win the lawsuit?
I believe that's the stip and order that we offered.
That's, I'm only an amateur lawyer, but to me that seems overly complicated.
Thank you.
So I have a question which I think I know the answer to, but I want to ask anyway. On PDF page 39, there's the JPA assessments for each member agency. The percent increases for two of the agencies are a lot higher than for Granada. Is there a real short answer that explains why?
Changes in flow.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you, okay. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Director Slater-Carter,
Aye.
Director Penrose,
No.
Director Boyd,
Aye.
Director Warren,
Aye.
Director Blanchard,
Aye.
Director Kowalczyk.
No.
Okay, moving on to 7B, amend
Actually, before we
the
move on, Chair,
contract. Pardon me?
regarding, you mentioned the exception of the payment. I know I just want to comment and add that Half Moon Bay is making its payment. We don't, as a board, vote on payments from any of the member agencies, it's just our payment. I'll just share that comment.
Thank you.
Could we request council to advise the general manager offline if there's any caveats that should be attached to accepting the check offline?
Sure. If I could make a comment real quick, to close out this item, the JPA requires that the members of this agency, that the three member agencies pass a budget by July 1st. Now, given some of the work that we had to do to adjust the budget to deal with this year's issues with the IPS, we sent that back for one more round, which delayed us past July 1st. But two of the member agencies had that budget passed in early July. And tonight, 6 weeks past the deadline required in our agreement, we don't have a budget. And I'm glad that we have identified some sources for ongoing funding. That doesn't change the fact that we don't have a budget. as required in our contract with each other. It is our duty to ensure the ability of this agency to function, the mechanism that we have in the contract that we have had for 41 years, is to pass a budget. And to continue to fail to pass a budget is an abrogation of duty. And let it be very clear that for all the machinations, until we pass a budget, we haven't done that duty.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, amend the contract with Bold Bolzner, Maddow, Nelson, and Judson for legal services to increase the authorized amount by $100,000 for a total contract not to exceed $190,000. Thank you, Carl.
will stand up and tell you that I am again going to recuse myself because this concerns a contract with which I have a financial interest. And I will point out that there will be an empty chair here. I will not be able to advise you because I'll be out and probably outside because I can hear if I'm out here and I don't want to hear. So I also wanted to point out there is another item that had to do with having somebody sitting in that chair while you have this discussion that I'm not able to be a part of. But anyway,
Thank you.
with that, I will leave.
I'm confused about the agenda item. The title you just read is not the title that's
Yeah,
here.
there was, in putting the packet together, for some reason, it attached the item in 8, which is the one that Carl just referred to.
Discuss here.
So I handed out the paper copy of this one. It was also put on the website as an addendum because we realized after it was published that it pulled in the wrong staff report because they're so similar. And so the addendum has been on there since Friday morning.
What is she referring
And
This
so
right here.
this one says 7B.
to? Okay, but I don't have anything for 7.
You should have.
There should be a
you should
paper
have
copy,
A paper copy.
just a single page of the
Right
staff
here.
report. It looks very similar,
Right, but that's what's,
Oh, these
that's what I
are,
was just reading from.
yeah.
I have two 7Bs.
Oh, maybe somehow.
Here's
Here
the,
would be
here's the
identical.
staff report.
I'm fine either way. Look, the item is whether or not we're going to allocate money
Right.
to cover the additional expenses. And, I mean,
think that's
for
the
discussions,
important part, is
for
not.
discussions purposes, I'm gonna move that we approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
After the second.
Well, Leonard
I
did.
heard Leonard. So for discussion. I see that Rick is anxious to talk.
Who knew?
Go, go.
So I'll try and be quick.
Good, because we've only got 20 minutes.
So, Half Moon Bay will support an increase of $25,000, but won't support paying for funding for Sam Attorney, because they're not, for the litigation, because Sam is not named in the litigation.
Thank you.
Sam
Any
is
other
not
comment?
named in the litigation.
Correct.
Sam is a named party.
Is a named
as-
party, but they're not the litigants, as it's Granada.
They're not a defendant.
Granada
Excuse me?
Services.
I read the,
Works.
no, you're not my attorney, okay?
I know.
And through your efforts, our attorney has had to leave the room.
No, he
So,
used himself from
excuse me,
1090.
excuse me.
This
believe
is
he's
not
out
a
of order.
debate, guys. Scott, keep going.
I'm going to assert that this is a well-considered item, and that any attempt to limit Sam's ability to defend itself is hostile to the interests of Sam and the people it represents. And I want to call out that Half Moon Bay is taking deliberate steps to try to keep Sam from defending itself as a named party in a lawsuit initiated by the city of Half Moon Bay.
I want to be clear, Sam does not have to defend
Please
itself
don't,
in litigation.
please do
Period.
not interrupt. We don't interrupt you. I will protect you from interruption. It's Scott's turn. Okay, do we have any, Leonard?
Oh, one question, we can't ask council since he's not here, general manager. One of the first lines in the court service document, doesn't it say you have been sued?
Yes, it does list Sam.
Yeah.
And as mentioned for the Director Kowalczyk, who wasn't here for last meeting last week, one of the issues is even if Sam is not defending, because we are not a party to the JPA agreement itself, we were created by the JPA agreement, but we were listed in the lawsuit, is that Sam needs to get legal advice in responding to requests for information, sitting at the table when there are legal discussions. We will not be able to participate in any of that, and while I think of myself as being able to hold my own in a general conversation, I do not believe I am an attorney, and I wouldn't act as one, and I would not want to advise Sam based on that, and I would feel definitively underrepresented without someone to at least give me advice when there are requests for information, if it was just that alone. And because we are named, it is far more than just that.
Okay. Rick?
So appreciate that. So Half Moon Bay will agree to dismiss Sam from the lawsuit if the two districts will agree that it is not a necessary party to it, i.e. that Sam's absence from the suit will not impair our ability to get a court's declaration. So we can draw that up and provide that to the other member agencies' attorneys to review, and in doing so, we dismiss Sam from the suit.
Thank you.
Well, that seems to be something solely under your control. Knock yourselves out.
I would comment.
Is there interest from the member? I'm sorry. Is there
I would comment, in looking at the summons dated July 11, 2017. It is to Granada Community Services District and Montero Water and Sanitary District and Sewer Authority Midcoast side, real party and interest. You are being sued by plaintiff, City of Half Moon Bay, a municipal corporation. And then it goes on to talk about what you need to do within 30 days.
So,
I would say that that's an interesting proposition. You should send it to our attorneys. This is not the time or place for legal discussions.
Okay.
I will also say that the $100,000 is a not to exceed. And so with that, we have potentially 5 cases from the IPS spills, and we may have others. I think it would be foolish to tie the hands of our attorney in defending Sam and Half Moon Bay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Leonard?
I would like to request that someone from Half Moon Bay send that proposal to Granada's and Montero's legal counsel immediately, so that it can be discussed at our Thursday night meeting.
Absolutely. And I'd also like to see, with that, the motion to the court to remove Sam, because we can't adopt something unless there is actual effort to implement it.
So
Scott?
we talked about this a week ago. The drips and drabs of, we mentioned it, and then a week later, there's a proposal of something that may or may not address that issue. We talked about the stipulation. It's been a week. We don't actually have that in front of us. We talked about, all the talk about the loan document, but we've never seen the loan document. There is paper on that tonight, but our attorneys haven't seen it, so it really makes it unusable for us tonight. And now there's talk of this. Honestly, Half Moon Bay chose to name Sam in the suit, and it's under Half Moon Bay's control to at any time approach the court and remove one of the named defendants from the case. You don't need our permission to do that. We talked about this last week. It's been a week. You haven't done it. It's all well and good. It's been 6 weeks since the budget was due. 6 weeks. And we're still in the realm of this is something that could happen, that's something that could happen. It's been 6 weeks, and we're in a crisis, and now we're putting all this energy into the budget instead of going out to bid on the IPS repairs, instead of paying some of our vendors, instead of assuring our staff that their paychecks are still coming, instead of assuring the members of our community and our regulators that we've got this job well in hand and that we're going to continue it without missing a beat. We don't have a budget. And the activity of this agency and its ability to communicate its ability to do its job is impaired while we don't have a budget. That's the thing we need to see Half Moon Bay take action on.
I'm sorry, that's not this agenda item. We're talking about legal services.
I understand, but this item is about whether or not we're going to fund. Half Moon Bay has said explicitly both last week and this week that its interest in not approving this amount goes directly to whether or not Sam can get adequate representation during this crisis, impairing our ability to defend ourselves and making sure that our staff has adequate counsel, that this board has adequate counsel. Seems really contrary to the whole talk about being on the same page and working to make sure this agency is successful. So you can say all the words, but the net effect is here we are, where you're saying, don't spend the money because we don't want you using the attorney to defend against the thing that we brought to you and laid on your plate. It really comes down to you bring in an action and now you're trying to interfere with our ability to defend.
Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Director Slater-Carter?
Aye.
Director Penrose?
No.
Director Warren?
Aye.
Director Boyd?
Aye.
Director Blanchard?
Aye.
Director Kowalczyk?
No. I'd like to make a motion.
Certainly.
I move to amend the contract with Bold, Polsner, Maddow, Nelson, and Judson for legal services to increase the authorized amount by an additional $25,000 to accommodate legal expenses related to the force main leaks this past winter, per their estimate.
I'll second.
Discussion. Leonard?
There's two reasons that I've read, I don't know if it's in what I'm staring at right now or a different document, for the requested increase. One is the IPS leaks and the other is because we went to 2 meetings a month. So the 25,000 to me, even if it's to exclude anything related to the lawsuit, still may be low.
Noted. So I'm only going by the math from the document, so.
Those were just estimates with the assumption that depending on how long that discussion takes, I could be back asking for additional. But I will say that we have received invoices already about the elephant in the room, the litigation, and we have already committed to that, and I wouldn't be able to pay it.
Do we have any more comments?
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, we need to allocate additional funds, but this is not sufficient. As she just pointed out, we've already expended a considerable amount in response to even identifying the risks to the agency and in initiating the proposal for the stipulation and coordinating that effort that the city is now speaking so glowingly of. This comes from spending that money, and we need to account for that. So, in light of that, I would suggest that we double up this number. You know that we've had to spend that money. You know that it would have been irresponsible for us to not have spent that money. You know that you wouldn't have a stipulation to even bring to us to talk about had it not been for spending some of that money.
Mayor. So I'm going by Carl's letter. If he presents an additional number.
That was mine. It was an estimate of what it potentially cost.
And so if there's an additional estimate in our change, I think we should consider that. I'm happy to go forward with 25, and if it's something other than that, because there's other things, then I think that can come to the board.
I think we can say that we have a pretty good reason to believe that we've already spent $10,000 on addressing the concerns and risks of the litigation and answering questions and doing the coordination between attorneys.
I'd
I
like to
think we
know how
should go
much
ahead
we
and-
have spent.
Excuse me, please don't interrupt.
So I would like to suggest that we add in at least that amount to what we approved now, because we know we've already spent it. Because we've already spent it, we've already impacted the available funds to do the rest of what's anticipated in here just for the spills. So that would leave like 15 for the spills. We're underfunding that. That doesn't make any sense.
Deborah?
Yeah, I'd like to know what it is that we've spent money on so far.
I don't have that off the top of my head, I would
Okay,
have to bring
then-
it back.
I would like to see that amount at our next meeting so that we can consider approving that amount.
I would also like to see all the staff time that has gone into this, since it has been not just attorney's time. And any other expenses that have gone into this. We have had the budget before us for 5 meetings. We have a long list of agenda items that we're supposed to be dealing with. We, as I recall, there were several members who said we had to adjourn our meetings at 9 o'clock, it's 8:53. We haven't had time to take care of regular business for Sam because of this impasse on the budget and on funding the attorney, which has taken meeting after meeting after meeting, not to mention the special meeting that Half Moon Bay in El Granada that Half Moon Bay refused to show up for. That is approved under the Brown Act.
It was not approved because the board,
I'm not debating with you,
okay, the board didn't vote.
thank you,
The legal meeting.
thank you. I don't interrupt you and I don't correct all of your misstatements, and I won't. But I would expect, mine is not a misstatement. I was working on the advice of counsel when I said that. That said, I think that we would do well to approve the entire amount because it is a not to exceed. We need to trust our attorney. And we don't need to keep coming back to this board with nitpicky little items like 5,000 here and 25 there, when we have a sewer district to run that has the state water quality control board breathing down our necks and looking to see if we can reach any kind of agreement. This kind of discussion puts our district at risk, each of our districts at risk. It puts Sam at risk. And in spite of all the nice words about protecting the environment, not taking care of business for all of us together is not protecting anything. It's putting your ratepayers at risk, it's putting my ratepayers at risk. And I've had ratepayers from Half Moon Bay call me and say, what is going on? I've had to say, I don't know. Ask your council members. I don't know, I can't speak for them. But that's neither here nor there for this point. I believe we should approve the 100,000 and just get it done with. It's for 2 years, as I recall.
Well, this would get us through the remaining time on the contract based on an estimate.
Which is to 2018. No,
2019.
2019.
It's about a year and a half.
About a year and a half. So it's a fairly long time period. We're not talking about 6 months. Do we have any more comments? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
We've already had a vote on this.
This is
No.
the second motion for
The second
25,000.
motion, the
Oh.
25,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Could we have a
on the
roll?
25,000.
On the 25,000?
Okay. Director Slater Carter?
No.
Director Warren?
No.
Director Penrose?
Yes.
Director Boyd?
No.
Director Blanchard?
No.
Director Kowalczyk?
Yes.
And I want to be really clear, to beat a dead horse, we need more money than this. And putting a fig leaf on this with 25 is not getting the job done.
I'd like to
We
make a
have-
comment myself, and that
Excuse
is
me.
that we have a check here for $911,392.50, which you have so far this evening refused, despite the fact that you say Half Moon Bay is not willing to pay their fair share.
No, we don't, it's not, we're,
It's a check,
Let's,
it's money,
let's,
and
we
that's what we're
have,
fighting
we
about
have
right now,
3
so.
minutes, we
No,
have
no,
3
just to be-
minutes
just to be
left.
really
Do
No,
I
clear.
just
have
to be
a-
very
Do I
clear.
have a motion to extend the meeting?
I have a motion, I move to extend the meeting to 9:15.
Thank you. Do we have a second? I will second. Do
And
we have a second?
Second.
Let's take a roll call vote.
Director Slater Carter,
Aye.
Director Penrose,
No,
Director Warren,
No,
Director Boyd,
aye.
Director Blanchard, sorry,
Aye.
Director Kowalczyk.
No.
Okay. Since we have 2 minutes left, I will, we do not have time to do item 7C on minimum staffing levels as required by the NPDES Compliance Evaluation Inspection Report, something critical to the functioning of this district. Nor do we have time for the new business to discuss invoicing member agency assessments for fiscal year 17-18 and provide direction to staff. Nor do we have time to discuss the retention of special counsel to advise Sam regarding proposed general counsel contract amendment and provide direction to staff. I will suggest I will call a special meeting to be held here so Half Moon Bay can find it in its, so Half Moon Bay can find its way to the meeting room. And I will say that the theatrics of Half Moon Bay have been very entertaining tonight, and I look forward to seeing the papers sent to our attorneys. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry, does calling a special meeting require a vote of the board?
No,
Not under the.
it's at the
borough.
discretion, it's at the discretion of the chair.
Sorry, Rick.
It's just a question. No need to apologize.
understand.
Or were you apologizing for stuff earlier?
No,
Brown Act says special
Or the
meeting
other
can be called by the
gratuitous remarks
chair
that you
or
just
by a
made.
quorum of the board.
so, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second. All those in favor, let's leave.